Okay. Okay. Welcome to the Menopause Success Aromapoint Therapy Micro Retreat and Live Gathering. Woo, that was a mouthful. I'm Angela Sidlo, founder of Menopause Success and health coach, reflexologist, Aromapoint therapist. And this has been my journey for the last 4 or 5 years, is the journey of the wise woman. So today I was really feeling inspired by fall and coming into that season of letting go and having some things come up with Mercury in retrograde and all of that right now. So I just felt like I really wanted to share with you and see, are my other wise woman friends feeling the same things in the same ways that I'm feeling right now? And how can we support each other? So I'm going to be using, I'll give you a list of the oils that we're going to be playing with today. And even if you don't have them right now, you'll learn the oil and the point and the reason why. And I'll have a document. You can all put your email addresses into, I probably have them already, but into the chat box, and I'll send you a PDF of everything that we're talking about today. So we're going to have ylang ylang, blue tansy, sweet marjoram, which in my garden, the bees have still been all over the sweet marjoram. It's been really lovely to watch them. Atlas cedarwood or Himalayan cedarwood, either one. And sweet orange or wild orange. So those are the 5 oils that we're going to be working with today. And just to start off and sort of set a tone, create a space for us today, I'm going to be spritzing one of my co-distillations that we've been doing this summer. This one is a combination of our wild beach rose that we have here on the coast, and lemon balm and chamomile and lavender from my garden. So I have that available as a spritzer, and I just want to invite nature to come in and be with us and surround us today. I just want to put that out into the collective. Oh, I wish you could smell this. Wonderful. So we'll invite nature in that way today too. And I love it because those are all plants that came from this land around me. And I just want to honor that too, just for being here in this space and time as the garden starts to go to bed now too. So before I came on Zoom today, I pulled a card from my Sacred Rebel card deck. And I always find this really intriguing because the right card always comes up for the right reason. This was the card of conscious connections. Conscious connections. And when I pulled that, I'm like, what does this card have to tell me? So I'm going to read the first paragraph about it, and we'll see if you can relate to it. There is a call for more intimacy in your immediate relationships. There is an opening from heart-to-heart communication that can salvage and restore a broken relationship or friendship if you are willing to honor your differences and look at what unites you. Sometimes it's hard to bear the differences between one another. One person may be willing to live life in high definition, whilst another may prefer to live more vicariously until they have the confidence to step into the center stage of their own life story. We are not here to judge each other, just to love, to be loved, and to let go of those who cannot accept us as we open up to those who can. This oracle brings guidance for you to trust in the sanctity of the connections in your life, those sacred connections. And the oracle asks you to remain open to healing connections and to allow people to be close to you. Trust in the process that draws people in and out of your life. Resist nothing and seek wisdom in all. And I was feeling that pull to this conscious connection of connecting with all of you and helping each other through this wise woman journey, our ups and downs of perimenopause, postmenopause, all the pauses we put into our lives, right? And really taking this time today to pause, to be present with one another, to be able to sit here and look each other in the eye and say, I see that in you, which reflects what's going on within me, and how can we honor that? So I want to start with a poem. And this poem it also ties into this consciousness, this connected consciousness. It's a poem by Amma Kajo, and it's called Primordial Mirror. And it imagines the first mirror, perhaps a river for Indigenous people, the first people, and the first moments and further reckonings this encounter would inspire. Do you remember looking in the mirror at yourself this morning? What did you think? What were those first things like? Oh God, look at all the bags under my eyes. Or, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. Or can you look in the mirror and smile back at yourself? Can you do that every day? The mirror is not merely physical. It is a marker of awakening and awareness, a marker too of sensations of jealousy and shame, things that we go through as wise women, right, on this journey. For the speaker, nakedness begins to frame her interactions with the natural world and with herself as a sexual and mortal being. I think through menopause, there's a point where we go through, like, where we discard our sexuality. We're like, okay, yeah, I'm so over that. I don't even have any desires or anything like that. So, transforming that energy into something different. So here we go. I am newly naked, aware of myself as a separate self, distinct from dirt and bone. I had not hands enough, and so finally uncrossed my arms. In trying to examine one body part, I'd lose sight of another. I couldn't imagine what I looked like during the fractured angles of sex. At the river's edge, it was impossible to see all of myself at once. I began to understand nakedness. It was a snake, loose and green. It was the snake skin coiled and discarded, the shedding chained itself like a balloon ribboned to a child's wrist. Morning's birdsong reminded me of the sloughing off of skin. The rumored beauty of my husband's first wife never bothered me before. I missed the sensation of being fixed in amber, then the hair in a comb, fingernail clippings, the red mole on my left breast, grown suddenly bigger. I perceived my likeness in everything, the lines on my palm as the veins of a leaf, my mind as a swarm of flies humming over something sugary or dead, my vulnerability as the buck I'd kill, then wrap myself inside. My hair as switchgrass, twine and nest, a roving cloud, my every limb. That new perceived awareness of our own bodies as we go through this journey of menopause, of the wise woman, often does feel like that snake sloughing off a skin, and we become very vulnerable and we don't want to be seen, and we do at the same time. There's all of this back and forth and sway and trying to stay centered. So I'm going to light a candle for our circle today, inviting in all the spirits of the ancient ones to guide us, to seal this sacred space. All right, so I'll keep that going while we're talking today. Ah, boy, what a journey. So I want to, let's see, I want to put that down. I'm trying to find my right document here to start. What we're really doing here today is an exercise in birthing the soul. So I'm going to talk about that for a little bit, birthing the soul. And we'll have an oil and a point for each one of these places along this journey of birthing the soul, because I feel like that's really what menopause is. We're working with this duality of who we are, our ego mind, and what our soul really wants to birth through this space of the pelvic bowl, now our space of creativity. And Carl Jung, his work really talked about this incarnation of the soul. And so I'm going to sort of weave some of that into this hour for us. And then we'll have some quantum questions that you can contemplate. So, there's this challenge facing humankind, especially women on the wise woman journey. Incarnating into the body is the soul becoming entangled in the ego mind, and the ego mind that compares us to other women in the world, like, oh wow, she's really aging well. Wow, she just must have had some kind of augmentation or Botox or fillers or something, and we get all tangled in these sort of these emotional traps, and I've often referred to them as these psychic cysts that develop in us and harden us and keep us stuck. So a lot of times the ego mind also wants to impersonate the soul. A lot of times I just have to tell my ego, hey, you can go along for the ride. I know that I can't be really totally separate from you, but you have to sit in the back seat, and you're not allowed to drive, and you're not allowed to look at the map. And so you just have to, you're just along for the ride. So get used to it. So when the ego gets involved, this means that we lose our ability to differentiate our soul from the mind. And that is the duality of our lives. So menopause is this interesting threshold where we get to look a little bit deeper and, tell that ego to stay in the back seat. All right. So in this relationship, the hero's journey, as Joseph Campbell often spoke about in his work, the woman's journey through menopause is the ego mind giving way to the soul in order to step into this sacred role as the wise woman. And that's really the backbone of my teachings with the Menopause Success Mastery Program. The death of the ego mind and realization of the self happens in these stages, much like this progression through perimenopause and menopause. So it follows these similar stages of death and rebirth, much like the seasons. And that's why I love talking about this during the fall season. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, in her book on death and dying, she talked a lot about these stages of death. And really, it's our birthright to raise ourselves up to this higher consciousness through the life, death, and rebirth cycle. I like to think of it like compost, like we give way to our younger self, which is no longer serving us. And we use our experiences to fertilize and create compost for this death of who we used to be into this rebirth and new life that we can create as wise women. So fall is just this most beautiful time to look at this process, as nature has such a profound yet subtle way of teaching us this. And, look at the different colors, and a tree that you might not have noticed ever before during the spring and summer suddenly is on fire with these beautiful oranges and yellows and golds. And you're like, wow, how come I didn't notice that before? So this is that time to show your colors, to be able to let go and transform. So each stage of this death represents a dissolution or a dissolving of an elaborate ego defense mechanism that we believe has kept us safe. Okay, I believe this and I'm going to defend this because, yes, this keeps me safe. But in fact, it's kept you imprisoned and living a life of lack and limitation. And through perimenopause, as a woman's body changes, she has the opportunity to look at this life-death cycle of who she was, who she is letting go of, and who she is becoming. It's definitely a time that challenges ideas and ways of being. I look at that, especially like the women that I take through this hormone balance detox. And, you know, what worked to get the weight off before, just, okay, I'm going to limit my calories, I'm going to exercise more and all of this. And those strategies aren't working anymore. So there's parts of our bodies we need to make peace with. There's different ways that we need to nourish ourselves and take care of ourselves. And so there's this journey that's not just of the mind, but also of the body and the spirit and the emotions. So there's a lot to unpackage with all of that, and still allow yourself to be in a safe space. So these defenses must unravel one by one for you to realize your self or your soul, the truth of who you are. This is the path of the wise woman. And one of the traces of this struggle for realization of the self can be experienced on increasing ongoing processes of the ego mind as this unfolds. It's like, hey, wait a minute. You were okay with that last month or last year or 10 years ago. What's different now? The ego is always questioning this. So that's a good sign that you're making progress. It's also that uncomfortable space as well. But it is the beginning of stepping onto the yellow brick road, as I refer to it as. So getting free of this shadow talk that the ego mind uses to keep us entangled to its purpose, to retain power and control at all costs. This requires some vigilance and determination, and also the beautiful support of other women around you through this sisterhood of the wise woman. But once you start this path, I'm telling you, there's no going back. Once you make a little bit of progress, you're like, yeah, I'm taking control of my life a little bit more today. Ego's still sitting in the back seat, and I want to keep going further. And as your soul gains strength, it'll be easy to overcome these vices of the ego mind. You'll recognize them for those falsehoods that they truly are, and you'll begin to see your true self emerge. You'll be able to notice, when am I getting into this repetitive pattern, and knowing how to get back out. So working through each stage of this cyclical process, you're not on a linear path anymore. And I've talked about this before in the Wise Woman talks that I've done. It's like your strand of DNA. You're going to be transforming on the spiral. It's a non-linear learning curve now. So the death of the ego mind, and as you step into your true self, you're taking this along an upward spiral. And you can stop and rest at any point, but you're always working up that spiral. And it's so beautiful. It's not, if you do A, then B will happen and you'll get to C. And, that's how we learn in a linear fashion. This is transformation, and transformation runs on a spiral. So we can come visit that a little bit later, and maybe even in another chat in the future. So even though you're experiencing the death of your ego mind, it can happen all at once, and it usually occurs in stages though. So that's why I've developed the Menopause Success Mastery Program. So each month it takes you up this spiral to reveal your true self. And just the group I just finished with last month they had so many breakthroughs and changes and shifts through that 9 months. We would get on the call every month and we're like, are you kidding? That happened? Oh my goodness, I realized this. And just went on and on. And so it was so fun to see those women complete their goals, make the changes that they needed to, and find sustainable ways to carry them into their wisdom years. One of the women was doing a book. She kept a book of all the months and notes and assignments and things like that. And she has 4 daughters. And she said, this is the menopause book that I'm going to share with my daughters so that they can go through this with the answers and the guidance that they need. So it was so beautiful to see her share that with her family. So as the dissolution or this dissolving goes through, we're going to go through the first stage of this process. And it's much like the stages of grief, if you've ever studied those. The first stage is denial. Me? I'm not getting old. What do you mean? I'm fine. Like, yeah, I'm having irregular periods, or I have crazy mood swings, but I'm fine. I'm just fine. That's the ego saying, you're just fine. So the first stage in this is marked by complete suppression and denial. Denial is a common defense strategy that's used to protect ourselves from considering an upsetting reality. Holy guacamole, I am at the threshold of menopause. And I do not want to admit that, because that means that society thinks less of me. I'm not useful anymore. I'm not heard. Whatever the voice is that you've been taught or grown up with or just seen in society. Really, how many fully menopausal, perimenopausal women are, shown in our advertising and marketing? Like, no, they want to show you that 20, 30 something woman, right? So that's one of the first things that comes up is denial. It's this stubborn refusal to see the unified nature of every life situation and how everything is connected. By the term unified, I just simply mean that the things are working together for good. Okay. And guess what? In perimenopause, things stop working. They stall out, they sputter. Sometimes they work really well. Other times it's like, where is the on button or the off button? I can't do this. So this is perhaps the most difficult stage. And the ego will just stay in there hanging on to that tooth and nail. It's characterized by fear and panic, overwhelm, victimization, blame, hiding, withholding, shame, and projection onto others of repressed elements of your shadow side. Seeing in others what you can't see in yourself. And I like to think of the example of when you're pointing a finger at someone, remember that there are 3 fingers pointing back at you, right? In this stage, we see others as we are, not as they are. So I always find that really interesting. And I've become a lot more aware of that. When I start looking and maybe being judgmental, I'm like, oh, what is that I'm seeing in them that's really reflected in me? So I have this also, presents a tremendous amount of subconscious pressure and pain that can be experienced at this stage of life. So the affirmation for this stage is, it is safe for me to see the truth. And the essential oil that I want to share with you for this is ylang ylang. Ylang ylang is called the smoothing regulator. It's sweet and floral and balsamic and exotic. It's sensual and earthy. It's I can't even describe it. I've seen it actually in person when I've been in Hawaii, and it's a beautifully sensual plant itself. And we're going to use an aroma point called Heart 5. And Heart 5 is called the penetrating the interior. which I love. And it's right here on the wrist, and you slide down from where that crease is. If you do the little karate chop, that's heart 7. So if you slide down about an inch from that, you're going to find right by the tendon, you're going to find heart 5. So I'm just going to take a minute. If you don't have the oil, that's okay. You can just put that on that point. And you can, if you're going to do both, you can, flip around and do that and just kind of hold that space. And I'll read through that a little bit. It's useful for dispelling those fears and anxieties. And it provides this gentle safety cocoon. It allows for a healthy and natural, productive relationship between the head and the heart. Clearing that pathway is one of the first steps to stepping into the way of the wise woman. It helps recalibrate the receptivity and the creative energies of the pelvic bowl. And that's really the transformation that's happening through menopause. So we're going to open up those pathways so denial can have a little talk between the head and the heart in a safe space. Because when tough things come up, we need a safe container to be able to allow us to make changes and start thinking about changes, right? So the second stage is anger. Once we've realized that there's an actual real problem situation here, then we get angry about it. Wait a minute, I'm not ready for this. What's happening? This makes me really angry. So this is the illusion of one's true situation in life. It begins to break through and surface to consciousness. A tremendous anger can be experienced. You can feel that others are to blame, that, oh man, I spent so much time raising my kids and paying attention to all my husband's needs and never had any time for myself. And now I'm falling apart and I've just lost all this time in my life. I mean, I've talked to women who've expressed this a lot to me. Especially those of you who may have had been held in high esteem previously, maybe had this amazing career and served on all these committees and were part, and you knew you were burning the candle at both ends, but it didn't matter. You were doing what you wanted to do, right? And now you're not able to do that. So, you can feel really irritable and lose your patience with others, especially those close to you. Recognizing this anger as a natural response to your awakening to this reality of life, rather than your story, then you are about how your life should have been, then you can really start getting the work done, right? And you may project that everyone else is living their dream, but you're not. I know several years ago, I was, at this crossroads about, do I want to have a job that I go to every day for someone else, or do I want to keep doing what I love to do? And how do I do that and make a living? And I saw, other mentors that I had, traveling the world and doing all these things and still making their living. And I thought, oh, is it ever going to happen to me? And there were those stages of anger that I would go through, like anybody would normally do. So when I'm in that space, I want to really draw in this affirmation and say, thank you for helping me and express my anger and disappointment in healthy and constructive ways. I'm saying this to myself. Thank you for helping me feel and express my anger and disappointment in healthy and constructive ways. And one of the best ways to do that for me is to rely on the plant medicine. So blue tansy is the oil that I've chosen. It It means the bringer of flow. And so many times when I've felt angry, it's like I hit a brick wall and there's no flow. There's just anger and it just feels all pent up. So blue tansy has this fresh, sweet, floral, little bit herbaceous aroma to it. We're going to use liver 14 as the Aromapoint. Liver 14 is known as the gate of hope. So imagine this gate of hope with the bringer of flow to open up and release anger and stagnation. So liver 14, if you follow the line from the nipples straight down to the edge of the rib cage, it's just on the outer edge of the ribs there, straight down from the nipples. That's liver 14. It's a beautiful point. And blue tansy will go on that point. And I like to use blue tansy in a 15% dilution in jojoba oil because it's blue. And actually I have a white shirt on, so I'm just going to do that point with my fingers and not with the oil today because I don't want to get blue on my shirt. So the oil on this point is going to promote the relief of stagnation and anger. It also helps the diaphragm open up. And I think when we get angry and when anger builds up in us, we tend to tighten up and the diaphragm gets tight as well. So this will bring some flow there, getting those deeper breaths. It brings flow to closed off or quarantined material, emotional material. It helps free emotional holding patterns associated with grief and anger. And it softens rigidity and helps us regain fluidity and mobility, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Just saying that helps me feel like there's more of a flow, that I'm in the flow with life in general. And that feels so good, so rich. All right. The third stage in this process of reckoning is bargaining. I remember when I was a kid and I would say, oh gosh, I'll do anything if I can just have this one thing, right? Haven't we all been through that at some point in our life, making these bargains? This is just characterized by different strategies that we attempt to undo our new reality. Like, okay, well, maybe if I have some liposuction, or maybe if I do that one diet thing where they turn that freezing thing where they turn my fat in my belly to brown fat and it magically melts off. There's all these bargaining tools. And that's what marketing's all about out there for women like us. They're like, try this new thing and and this concealer stick and this blah, blah, blah. Right? When life is not making sense at this stage, you can feel really confused and lost, just not knowing what to do next. And so you might question, what's the rest of this life going to be like if this is in such a turmoil, right? Nothing is making sense. Nothing is working. So this bargaining typically happens as a way to gain some sense of control over your life. So you're negotiating your way through this chaos as the ground you built your life upon seems to be just caving. The chaos that's happening within can manifest in your outward circumstances, work, relationship, finances, health. If you're not happy on the inside, it's going to mirror out those unraveling of the beliefs that you've held about how life is or how it should be in all spheres, medical, social, religious, family, etc., right? It just seems like a lot of stuff spinning around. So your bargaining can be rational, such as a commitment to adhere to a certain protocol of actions, or seek help from caregivers, or engage in magical thinking. Or you may seek some form of appeasement for feelings of guilt that you're responsible for in some way, or what's befallen you in life. Could that be the pint of Ben & Jerry's ice cream I would eat pretty regularly during that time? I'm making a bargain. Like, okay, I'll do this tomorrow. Just let me eat my ice cream tonight, right? So this bargaining can result in more active and positive engagement from you. Bargaining behavior can be motivated by unhealthy and irrational expectations that can lead to more confusion and disappointment in outcomes. So this is where we really need the help of our oils to maybe pacify us in a way, or get us to a point where we can recalibrate. So for this bargaining stage, I've chosen sweet marjoram, known as the great pacifier. It's warm and spicy, herbal and sweet. And I talked earlier about the bees really loving it in my garden. Those are my companions, those little garden companions along the way that are going to come in and help to recalibrate this, right? So we're going to use the Aromapoint Gallbladder 21, which is located here in this little shoulder well at the apex of the top of the shoulder. It's halfway distance between the spine and the lateral shoulder blades. So if you just come from the neck and go out, you'll find a little dip there. Love that point. And I'm actually going to use this. I like to dilute it 50% on the marjoram. I just love that spiciness. This feels so good. So this is going to ease tension and burden. How much of our burden do we carry on our shoulders? I mean, I've seen some people with some huge luggage racks there, right? Carrying the weight of the world with them. It's going to open up healthy, responsive boundaries and allow access to a deeper creative wisdom. It's going to relax tension on both sides of the resistance membrane, which helps us resolve inner conflict. Yeah, that inner conflict. Recalibrating our energy boundaries so that we can naturally defend and protect ourselves without all of this unsupportive reactionary momentum from the past, those old stories. So when that story comes up, you're going to say, oh, I'm recognizing that as something that wasn't really useful for me and no longer serves me. So I can release these long held mental and emotional tensions, taking that luggage off one piece at a time. So it's unwinding the fascia around the muscles too, feeling that. So this is going to provide you with some opportunities to start playing with these oils and points. The fourth stage is depression. Okay, we've realized this, we've gotten angry about it, we've been resistant, we've, bargained, and now we're just going to be depressed. I've been through this wave so many times through my perimenopause and menopause journey. It's just like, oh my goodness, I could write a book on each stage. So this is, that sadness and fatigue, this inability to feel pleasure characterized in this stage. Spending time in the first three stages is, just this maybe an unconscious effort to protect yourself from the emotional pain. But when we get to these stages where this is like grief and loss, and it gets confusing, that initial shock and refusal to realize that the truth is giving way, it seems futile and in a state of despair that maybe nothing really can be done. Well, I know that's not true. And this is the time when self-compassion, associating with others who are gentle and supportive, becomes so crucial. I remember the point in my journey where I realized I can't do this by myself. I need help. So there's this team that I put together for myself. Like, okay, who's going to be on my team? First, it's like-minded people. So I think I, unfriended a bunch of people. And really found who my closest companions were that kind of got me. They get me. They get who I am. And then the caregivers, a regular reflexology session, a regular massage, the deeper work with the essential oils, having a group of women in my full moon wise woman group that I could talk to every month and say, this is really how I'm feeling. How can you help support me? And just really asking for that help. But it was a deep, dark hole before I got there. So what I like to bring in during times like this stage of depression, is cedar wood. And it could be Atlas cedar wood or Himalayan cedar wood. It doesn't matter, just a cedar wood. You could use other conifers if you had black spruce or silver fir as well. But I like cedar wood. And cedar wood is known as this steady scaffolding of the internal city. And when I'm in a depressive state, I need somebody to shore me up, ground me, and get me back upright, because I feel like I'm just in fetal position on the floor in a puddle. So this warm, sweet, woody is such a great companion for me at this point. And I'm going to use the point of Aromapoint of urinary bladder 10, UB10, which if you go on the back of the neck and you find the base of your skull and you slide down just a little bit, about 1.5 inches on both sides of the spine, you're kind of in that trapezius muscle there. You're on the lateral edge of it. You can feel a little dip. That's UB10. It's called heavenly pillar. Now, what a beautiful companion to a cedar wood, which is your scaffolding of your internal city, to create this heavenly pillar. I love it. So I'm just going to place a little drop there. And don't worry, again, if you don't have the oil at hand, you can practice later, but just locate the point right now. Oh, the benefits of this point and oil combination. Oh, I can feel it already. It resolves energetic sludge and heaviness, such as depression. It stabilizes your roots and resurrects instinctual fortitude. Kind of takes away that feeling of giving up. It reminds us of the aspects of ourselves that transcend this time and space. It reminds us of that which is most precious and restores our connection to the sacred. Kind of, it's welling up a lot of emotion for me. It's really feels like it's releasing right now. It's making me salivate for some reason too. Wow. Beautiful. And reconnecting to what is sacred to us. I mean, that's a good question. What is sacred to you? That's a great journaling question. What is sacred to you? My time alone is sacred to me. I used to just say, okay, I'm just going to fill my world with lots of people around me. But I don't know if it was going through the pandemic or what, but I find my quiet time very sacred. So find out what is sacred. And this brings us to the 5th stage that we can explore, and that's acceptance. Finally, you recognize the truth and reality of your life situation and no longer protest or struggle against it. Acceptance is not giving up or giving in. And that was a real interesting journey for me to go through acceptance. I think there's still stages of acceptance that I go through. And I think there are and should be and will be as we continue to age. But your focus can shift more to enjoying your life as it is, and less time in the denial and the bargaining and the anger and the depression. Because those are just the stepping stones of recognition to get you to the point of acceptance. It's feeling that gratitude for the smallest details of your life. I mean, I have gratitude for my dandelion root tea in the morning. It's warming, it's soothing, it feels good. I have gratitude for walking around in my garden, even though the elk come through and eat all the dahlia blossoms or something, because I get to live with nature around me. This is our natural state. This is what we were born to feel. And I know it may seem insignificant, those events, but notice them, give gratitude, let that into your life. You'll naturally feel more empathy and support for yourself and for others in having this experience. So in this stage, you experience a sense of renewal and connection to your life and to those around you, those like-minded people. You've raised your consciousness. You're using the fragrance energetics of these oils, this plant medicine, to raise your vibration. You've overcome any sense of loss and feel a strong sense of alignment in your destiny. The intuition is clearer and stronger. You're getting guidance in each and every moment. So really paying attention to what's happening to you all throughout the day. Any of those signs of depression are no longer present. And now you can really begin to step into that process of building your soul force, and to continue that healing journey. So the affirmation that I love to use for this stage is, thank you, thank you, thank you for helping me feel calm and peaceful and gracious for my life moving forward. The oil that I love to use for this stage is sweet orange or wild orange, Citrus sinensis. It's known as the innocent harmonizer. I often talk about going through perimenopause as sort of this reverse puberty. And we do get a chance to go back to a time of innocence, a time of pure exploration and wide-eyed awe and amazement at what happens around us. So the point to use for this is CV17. It's right on the center of the sternum, right about nipple level, or I always say where they used to be. So I'm going to take a drop of, I like to use my middle finger. I also dilute this to 25 to 50% on my middle finger, because that is the finger that is associated with the pericardium, the sac around the heart. And so I like to make a little heart-to-heart connection here. I'm going to place that in that space. Oh, what a fresh smell of this orange. The innocent harmonizer. And conception vessel 17 is known as primordial child in Chinese medicine. So we're connecting to that inner child, allowing that innocence and joy to come through. This helps us to channel and redirect love and acceptance to our shadow side, those rejected aspects of ourselves. It helps regain trust in playfulness and spontaneity. It helps bring joyfulness and lightness of the heart to our over-serious, over-controlling, or cynical parts of ourselves. It clarifies, expands, and reconnects our energy centers to allow our natural brilliance. And I just think of that sweet orange is radiating out of the heart space out and radiating in to keep us connected inside and outside. It feels so good. So this is all like, riding a bicycle. We're going to go through these 5 stages, and yeah, it'll feel a little bumpy at first and we'll feel like we wobble along. But if you keep going through them over and over and working on them, it's like getting on a bike. You can get right back on after you haven't ridden for a while and just practice. Keep tapping into it. Keep working towards that wise woman that you're becoming every day. Using ylang ylang, that smoothing regulator. Blue Tansy, the bringer of flow. Sweet Marjoram, that great pacifier. Cedarwood, that steady scaffolding for your internal city. And sweet orange is that innocent harmonizer. So some of the journal prompts, and I'm going to copy and paste them here into the chat so you can take a picture of them. Please post them in the Menopause Success Facebook page. Let me go over here and post these. Okay, let's see. I'm going to give this to everyone. Am I going to do that? Everyone. Okay. Control B. Oops, that went to Lynn directly. Let me see if I can get it to everybody. Go to chat. Chat, nope. Okay. Everyone. There we go. Control V. There. All right, so you can take a screenshot or copy and paste that someplace else. So some of the questions that you can explore is like, in relationship to fall, in relationship to your menopause journey, like what is ending in your life right now? How can you honor that and bring it into completion? And just rely on those oils to help you with that too. What might you need to let go of to complete this ending cycle? What can you give back to make this fertile compost for the future? What's the gift or the opportunity in this ending? That's that silver lining. And how does that transform into a new beginning for you? And then you can set some intentions maybe around a new beginning. It could be just as simple as a new way of thinking about something, or doing a judgment detox, or, whatever it might be, right? What do you want to remember as you move forward if a challenge comes up and you hit a bump in the road? Because I think, I talked about these stages that we go through can, they're not like, okay, check, got that done, off my list, move on, right? It kind of loops around and says, it'll test you. The universe says, oh, did you think that you learned that lesson yet? Well, how about this? And if you're having the same reaction that you had the last time, it's like, I need to go back to that one. Do my oil, do my point, set my intention, let it go again, right? Yeah. Oh boy. But like I said, it is a journey. It is a process. So I want to kind of just open it up to comments. Like, how are you feeling? How does any of this resonate with you? What stage do you think you've been going through recently that's coming up in your life? You know, take yourself off mute, Judith.
Yeah. No, all of it resonates, especially the desire just to be alone. I could just go live in a hut and I think be really fine. And that has been, not my MO. So it was interesting. Pretty much every point that you went through, I was like, yeah, wow, I hadn't really connected it with that. And I use all of these oils, but not necessarily on these points. And so I'm just hugely grateful to put them together with that. So thank you. Yes,
It's
all of
so
it. I related to every stage.
that's
And
awesome.
as before you even got to it, I was like, oh yeah, I've just been kind of like cycling through these. So yeah.
Yeah, it's really strange. And I don't know for me if it's Mercury in retrograde these days or what, but it's like intensified. So a lot of times I'm just sitting with it. I'm just like being the observer and kind of like, that's interesting. How am I going to handle that one? And like taking the time to think about it first instead of doing my react, take control, which I know then is my ego mind. So
yeah,
good.
I find that it's just too much right now to even contemplate taking control. There's just too much going on in the world. There are too many of us in this same stage with humanity is just working through its muck. Like, yeah, you just need to sit and listen.
Yes. Yeah. In that quiet space. Yeah.
Yeah. But sitting and listening with the plant allies is always so much
fun.
I
know. Lynn, how are you feeling? What resonated with you?
Same thing. A lot resonated with me. I don't have the oils, so I need to get them. That's for sure.
Well, you're close, so.
Yeah, I'm really close. So I like the part about the flow, getting in the flow, because I feel like when I'm out of the flow, then I get more anxious about everything. But if I try to make myself like, think of it as like a hurricane and I'm in the eye of the hurricane and I just try to calm down and detach from all that stuff that's going on out there, which isn't easy, right? But if I give myself time, and I'm too also becoming more contemplative and wanting to be alone and liking the quiet. And I feel like I'm more my authentic self when I'm in the quiet than when I'm out there necessarily trying to be who I think I'm supposed to be out there, which is totally changing now too. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. Yeah, it was very helpful to see this is normal. These stages are stages and it's not just me cracking up.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
What is one thing that you do every day that helps you be in the flow? What can you do to be in the flow? What's your favorite thing to do?
My favorite thing is music and gratefulness to God who created me. And then when I connect with him, it just flows. Then I can handle all the other stuff. But if I don't have that time, then I'm rushing around trying to do it in my own strength and I run out. So that's my favorite thing. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe just taking one of these questions each day of the week, this next week, and like how, maybe your first question is, how can I start my day in the flow? What keeps me from starting my day in the flow?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so. I don't know what that was.
Yeah,
that was great.
Okay. Let's see. Let me come back here. So yeah, if you're not in the Menopause Success Facebook page, please go there and post some of your findings. I'm going to do a class tomorrow. It's more of the Menopause Success mastery. It's a master class, so kind of just breaking down. I think maybe Lynn, you might have been part of that last time, just kind of like having a candid discussion about what symptoms are you having, what can we troubleshoot, and then sort of talking about my 9-month Menopause Success Mastery program that takes it month by month on the Wise Woman journey. So yeah, if you liked what was happening today, I'll send links out to tomorrow's if you want to share that with somebody. I'm also going to put this on my YouTube channel, this talk that we're having today. So can I have your permission to do that? All right. So because I feel like when we have these conversations together as wise women on our journey, that it is so helpful for another woman to tap into that and say, oh, wow, that I could do this. I'm not alone. Oh my gosh, it's happening for other people too. And then there's that first opening that says, I'm not alone. And then we start community about that. So we have to have community. That's how we're going to get through that. We love our alone time, but we need to know that this is happening for other women too, and that we're not just weirdos out there, right? On this crazy journey that we don't understand sometimes. So finding other like-minded women is really important in this. So thank you so much for being here, for being the light that keeps us going out there with one another. And if you have any questions, just don't ever hesitate to pop in and ask. Message me, put it in the Facebook group, send me an email, those kinds of things. And we'll just keep this going, one conversation at a time. And honor to the plant spirits today who've brought us through this and continue. So what would we do without them? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Angela.
All right. And I'll talk to you soon. Loves.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.